get a few of those. Robert Henry and Martha Ellen Hardy. Martha Ellen Hardy. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it. That's good. That's good. I can see it. This one's dark. And this is, tell me who this is.
All right, this is your grandmother's mother and dad, Martha Ellen Hardy Perry.
And she was the midwife.
Mm-hmm.
She was the midwife. Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
And Robert Henry.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Now, then this one, I'll tell you. Now, see this whole thing here is full of graves right here.
Oh, let me just see, this is the Elba Cemetery that we're visiting. Okay.
All right, see, Martha and Mary were twins, and they died, I think, at birth, May the 29th, 1878. See, they had 10 altogether.
Who were her parents? Who were the parents? Oh, these. No, these.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's why only 4 lived. There were 10 children.
Yeah.
May 29th.
See, she lived. She was married.
Right. Okay.
And then they've got them all around here. Oh, I can't remember who they've got on here.
It's hard to see.
John what?
I can't read it.
I can't read it either.
Let me if I get in the shape.
And see, this is Archie L. and Archie. No. Archie Lionel was his name, and he.
These are more of the children who passed away.
Yep. These are the rest of they're all on this. They're all on here, and that one you see, and they're in this.
All this plot right here.
They're in here.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
So that's that.
Her dad was a brother-in-law to this woman here. Then he was a son-in-law to his.
See, it says parish down on the end here, but it's for the others. They had Mary and Martha and Archie and. Anyway, the
thing is, where are the people buried that crossed the plains? And you're telling me what, Beth?
In the Elba Cemetery.
In the
Robert Henry, when he crossed the plains when he was 10 years old.
So his mother was a widow, and was his father the pub owner in England? That wasn't. Was it England or Wales, or do you know?
I think it was England.
It was England, and he didn't want to join the church.
I don't think he did. He felt like because he had that pub, he wasn't,
Right.
Where they sold beer and stuff, I think he didn't think he was worthy, so he just didn't. But
do you think Martha was a convert? Martha would have been. Wait, his wife is
Martha.
Martha, do you think she was a?
No, I don't think so. I think they were. I think she was born in the church.
Is that right? But you don't know who the first one on the parish line would have been to join the.
No, I don't.
In her family,
no.
You wouldn't have known the first. Yeah, I don't know who that is. I'll have to ask Jack. If he knows who the first person.
He might know.
It's probably in his history.
Yeah.
Now,
this is
with his daughters.
This is Granddad Parrish's brother.
Okay.
That walked across the plains.
So do you think he came across the plains too?
Yes. Yeah, he walked across.
Let's see. I wonder if he was older or younger.
He was the one that was 10.
No, Granddad was 10. Go see how
this is Fred.
Let me go.
She was, but this is his wife.
Oh, this is his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He was born in 48 and she was born in 57.
Oh, she was younger too.
Yeah.
She died young though, 1919.
Yeah. And that's.
Yeah, this is.
Oh well, wait a minute. It's.
This is Granddad.
And that's sort of how we're related.
He'd be a brother. He'd be the oldest brother to Janice's mother.
So that's kind of how we're related.
Cousins. She was a cousin to
This is a cousin. Elva was a cousin to Flossie.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right. I would like you to tell again I'm going to have you repeat that stuff about the parish side and the Smith side and how big your folks were and all that.
In that case, let me start in England.
Okay, let's do that.
Both sides of my parents' family came from England. Now, the parish side of the family lived about 80 or 90 miles north of London. And they were livestock cattle people. My dad's side, the Smith side of the family, lived about 50 miles south of London, over on the west coast of the island of England, and they were sheep people. Both had livestock, but Dad's family was a sheep people. They joined the church approximately the same time, or that sort of thing, and left the country about the same time. Grandfather Parrish landed in New Orleans, and Grandpa Smith landed in New York. And then New York side of the family, the Smith family came right on over to where the church was organized with Joseph Smith and the whole nine yards, a whole bunch of them, and took one of the handcart companies coming west. The Parrish side of the family came into New Orleans, and Grandpa Parrish was a big drawbone man, and he stopped in Kentucky for a while and kind of became a Kentucky long rifleman. He liked to hunt and all that sort of thing, and he had evidently a little bit more finance, more money than the Smith side did, because he had his own wagon and his own team, was able to buy them. So when he came into Salt Lake, Brigham Young sent them over to Alamo, Idaho, and when they got into Alamo, Idaho, the presiding brother there said, "Well, now, Brother Parrish, all the good land, livestock, one thing and another, has been taken up. But just over the hill, 12 miles, there's a little town that they're going to call Elba, and there's room over there for you." So Grandfather Parrish just took up his team, or did hardly unhook it, and went right on over to Elba and found the farm and settled right in and built a home on it. And the Smith side came across the handcart company, and they lost great-grandfather Smith. He died, and that left great-grandmother with 3 little kids to come on across. But they helped the others in the handcart company, and others who were able to helped bring her on into Salt Lake. And there was a group of them sent from Salt Lake by Brigham Young up to Logan, Utah, in that valley. And they settled up there, and a town called Wellsville. And that's where a lot of the people, a lot of the Wellsville people had relatives, the Normans and some of the others, settled, and so that became our headquarters for the Smith side of the family. Well, by the time Dad got 15, then Grandpa Smith, he had gathered a bunch of sheep together, and there was lots of people grazing sheep and cattle around the foothills of the mountain, and he thought he'd run out of graze for the livestock, so he said, "Well, John, let's you and I we'll see if we can find some place." And they had heard about the Raptor Valley. So they got on their horses and come on over through Snowville and up through where the road now comes into Malta, through the Switzer Canyon. And as they came out of the canyon and looked down across the desert there, it wasn't desert at that time, the grass was almost hip high, just waving in the breeze. And Grandpa Smith said, "John, this is the place." So they went back to Logan and waited till the time was right, and they put Dad in a wagon and with a sheep camp wagon, and with the stove and whatever he needed to have, and a saddle horse, tied the wagon behind it with a good dog, and he grazed and drove sheep from Wellsville, Utah, in the Raptor Valley. And as a result, Grandfather Smith at that time, and all his brothers and sisters followed him. And they all settled on land in the Malta area, out south and west of Malta, where ours was. But Grandpa Smith had a little money, and he bought part of the land that Malta was built on. And it was still in the family up until the last 6 or 7 years ago. Bernice Bailey, who would be Dad's mother's daughter, had the paperwork, the rights of that piece of property, and she ended up selling it. I can't remember who now. But he built a nice big home in Malta and took up 160 acres, right just across the Cassia Creek right there in town, and started a farm to take care of his family and his older boys. That'd be Uncle Joe and Uncle Ralph, and Uncle Nat, that was Samuel Napoleon. We call him Nat because the name was so long. They all settled land around Dad and Mother. Now, Dad came in the valley, in the Raptor Valley, and with the sheep. And the only thing there was in the Malta area at that particular time was a little store with a post office in it. And so by the time that Dad got into the valley of Raptor, Malta, Raptor Valley, Elba had built a church and had a nice little organization up there in that area. So anytime there was anything exciting happened in Elba that the guys found out about and could get to, they'd saddle up the horses and ride up to it. Well, it happened that they were having a dance every so often in the Elba church house, which was on the second floor. They built a rock church house, all rock outside, had 2 floors to it. The bottom part you had church, top part was for village activities, and they danced, and later on they put basketball baskets in it. But Dad and half a dozen other cowboys and the sheep man boys put the best pair of Levi and their cleanest J.C. Penney shirt. Excuse me, his asthma type. J.C. Penney shirt and tied it behind the saddle with the saddle strings. And would ride up to Elba, and the church house was about a half a mile south of Cassia Creek. Well, they would ride up to the creek about a half mile south from the church house and get off and wash their faces and clean up the best they could and comb their hair and put on their best pair of Levi's and their best shirt and climb back on horses and ride up to church house and tie up there at the hitching rack, and then they would go upstairs into the dance. Well, now you stop and think here, the Parrish side of the family came from north of London, and the Smith side of the family came from south of London. And they came over, over 5,000 miles. And between Malta and Elba, it was 12 miles. And Grandpa Smith rode, that'd be my dad, rode his saddle horse from Malta, 12 miles along with some other boys, and went to the dance. And when he saw my mother playing the piano, he thought she was a real good-looking woman. And he went and asked her to dance, and she said, well, she had to play the piano. But she said, I'll see if I can't find somebody that'll play the piano for me, and then I'll dance a time or two with you. So all I had was a drum and a fiddle and a piano player, but anyway, she did get one of the other girls to play for her, and she and Dad danced. And of course, that's what they say, every time they had a dance after that, or anything he could ride his horse up to, he would go, and he became real close to the Parrish family. And of course, Mother had some younger brothers, and Dad was a good athlete. And he could stand and broad jump quite a little ways. And of course, he got the boys interested in broad jumping, and he'd jump, make them work, and say, well, how do you beat that one? Let me know, and I'll come out and we'll do another one. And he had fun with that, and he was a baseball player, played baseball on a team in Malta. But the funny part of this was that the boys would never leave Dad and Mother alone. So he'd give them money to go down to the little store that was nearby to buy peanuts or candy, whatever it was. But he said they'd run both ways. So they were afraid they'd miss something, but they'd run both ways. So he and Mother didn't get to spend so much time together. But as time went on, one day he completely fell in love, and Dad asked her to marry him, and she agreed. So he got real interested in owning land of his own, and he went to government and filed on 240 acres south and west of Malta, on the ledge out there. And it was approved. And then when he and Mother got ready to get married, why, they loaded up a wagon and put enough hay in it to last the horses and for them to eat and have camp at night. And when they left 3 days later, why, they ended up in Logan and got married, and he'd saved $200 or $300 to buy furniture with that they would need, and I think $315 was about the amount of money he spent, and they put it in the wagon and came back. And during this period of time of his growing up, and Billy was one, he learned how to saw lumber, saw trees, and a fellow had a sawmill up in the mountains just west of us, or east of us. And Dad learned how to run the sawmill, and so he went up and made a deal with the guy, and they sawed up enough lumber to put around the log house that he and Mother put up in Flossie. And so they put real solid lumber, rough lumber around the house, and then added some room to it. And had a nice little home. And at that particular time, they used water that came off of the mountain to irrigate with. And of course, as times, as the drought came on, they had to have something else to irrigate with because there wasn't enough water running off the mountain. And then in the meantime, my grandfather Smith had gotten rid of all the sheep, and they took range rights for cattle, which was east on the big mountain, we call Black Pine, where they can take the cattle and graze them with the sheep. So he got a fence put around his 240 acres and raised a little hay and a little grain and feed the livestock. And then the depression and the drought both hit about the same time. And so he decided he had to dig a well if he could find water there. Well, water was close to the surface still. And so at 10 or 12 feet, they hit water and big nice loose gravel, and it was easy to dig. And so he marked off a spot about 20 by 20 that they were going to have the well in. And they went to work and would shovel. They got a little derrick type thing over the hole, and they would get down in there and shovel gravel and dirt into a bucket, and then somebody up above would pull a rope up, bring it up, walk out and dump it someplace a little ways away, and then they'd bring it back and send the bucket back down. And that's the way he ended up getting a well and enough water to irrigate the farm with from then on until the time we sold. Of course, he did a little improvement on it every year, but they were busy, and in the meantime, they started having kids, and Beatrice and Gladys would be the first ones, and then they had the Burley twins and Jack. Then 9 years later, I come along as an afterthought. And this would be during Mother's change of life when I was born. And I remember fun things that used to go on. The boys used to call Gladys Mother's little happy bottom. And of course, she was on the fight to milk they said that. And the boys all learned how to milk cows. And we had a little bunch of sheep. And I got to do the light chores. I got to feed the chickens and gather the eggs and feed the pigs the stuff that I could handle all that time with the bucket and water and all that sort of thing. And right about 20 feet from our back door in our home, Dad dug another little small well and put a little hand pump on it. Well, these, she stand up pretty high, had a long handle on it, and so excuse me, there's asthma time now. So when we had, if you had to get water, good fresh water, you went out and pumped a bucket full of good cold water. Well, and then we had in the summertime, we had a stand, four-legged stand just outside the kitchen door on the porch. Dad built a porch 2/3 way around the house. And the stand would be by the kitchen door, a big wash basin, and you'd dip in with a big dipper and put cold water in the wash basin and wash your hands with homemade soap, which wasn't made and cleaned up with a towel right there. Sometimes got looking like it'd been used quite a little bit, but that's the way we did her. And then in the summertime or wintertime, why the same little stand would be moved inside, just inside the back door. From where it was outside, and the water would be sitting there in the water bucket, and we still washed and wiped on the towel. And they grew at that particular time. Things were kind of tough, but they grew and they planted and grew lots of clover because of the type of ground it was. And as a result, so much clover was raised and shipped out of that farming area by other people as well as my family. They called it Clover Lane. And that stood for as long as I remember, and still the old timers are referred to as Clover Lane. And we got our herd of milk cows got sold. It was about 20. And we always had 6 or 8 or 10 big horses around. A bunch of sheep, 50 or 100 head. And Dad was a real farmer. We had chickens and turkeys and all that sort of thing, and pigs, so we did our own meat. He built a little meat house about 50 or 60 feet from the back of the kitchen door, and 10 or 15 feet off that porch I mentioned. I put a heavy log through the middle of it. That was the beams to the top of it. It wasn't very high, maybe 8 or 9 feet high. So we cured all our meat in there. All the pork was cured in there. And they would, it was called salt pork. They'd have barrels of salty water in there. And they'd take, kill a pig and take a quarter of it and hang on the peg on that big log nut to the middle, put the barrel right below it. And every so often you'll lower the hind quarter, front quarter, bacon or whatever down into the salt water and let it hold it there too, and then you'd hang it up. And then you'd do it again 3 or 4 days later. So then with all that salt in it, it would keep. You could keep it just like you could even in the summertime, but it would keep it that long. But every time you ate it, you had to porboil it. I don't know how anybody familiar with this porboiling or not. We had a big pan on the stove, and Mother would put water in it and heat it up, put the meat in, heat it up, and boil it. And the salt, the top would come out of the meat and would make a scum about that thick on top of the water to get rid of both the salt and quite a lot of the fat. And then she was put in a regular frying pan and fry and eat it. And I remember nearly every morning as I was growing up having bacon for breakfast, and that was always porboiled. In fact, I got involved in it as I got a bit older. She'd cut it up and asked me to take care of it, and I could put it in the big pan that we poured oil in, and we cooked it till the salt was nearly all out of it, and all I had to do was just put a fork in it and put it over the regular cooking pan. We had our own eggs, of course, and we had our own milk with milk cows. And after you fried the bacon in this big frying pan in the mornings on breakfast, you get rid of most of the grease, not quite all of the grease from the pork, but most of it. Then you would sprinkle a bunch of flour on there, depending on the size of the family. You'd have a cup or a cup of flour. You'd take a spoon, stir it around, and what you call browning it. And then, when you got the flour good and brown without burning it, you would pour in the milk. And then you had to continually stir it until you had a good mix on it. Then you ended up with what they call milk gravy. And it would be nice and brown and put a little salt and pepper on it. And we had a lot of homemade bread, and you'd crumb up homemade bread and put on your plate, and then you'd put milk gravy on top of it. And you always had a piece of side meat, which was bacon. And then Mother would fry eggs in another frying pan. So we would have crumbed up bread in a little pile on the plate. Then you put the milk gravy on it. Then if you wanted to, you could put the egg on top or up the side with the bacon. And that would be breakfast with a glass of milk or water or whatever you wanted. We had plenty to eat, but it was simple. We had a big garden up behind the house. It was almost an acre big, and Dad always planted lots of corn and potatoes, and they had peas and beans and carrots. Everything that what we could can and save, we did, and we had a big cellar behind the house. And one thing that I really enjoyed was, I don't know if you ever heard of dried corn or not on the farm, but Mother would save her flour sacks all winter long and during the summer, and wash them and use them for other things. But you would cut the corn off the cob with a knife, and then you would put about that much of it in the bottom of the flour sack, and hang it with clothespins out on the clothesline. And then, of course, as the sun came out, it commenced to dry. And it was my job to go out and fluff up the corn so that it was able to all get dry. And then it would be put in bottles and kept, we call it dried corn gravy. And she would take that in the morning. Or whenever we had mashed potatoes, she'd mash a lot of potatoes. And it would be made gravy, milk gravy to go with it. And you'd have what you call dried corn gravy on mashed potatoes or fried whatever we had, or you could put it on bread. I used to love them. Just bread with corn gravy on it. And that was one of the staples that we used. The salad that we had with the whole cabbage all winter long, most usually, and we had sand pit in one corner of it was all boxed in, and we kept carrots in. The carrots would be harvested in the fall when the tops cut off and be put in the sand pit. And of course we'd harvest potatoes and put them in the cellar where it was cool and nice. So you could go down the cellar and get carrots and potatoes and dried corn for gravy, and Mother always was a great canner. We had peaches and pears and apricots. People come out of Brigham City at that particular time down the old gravel road and stop in at your house with truckloads of fruit. And we'd buy it, and she would can fruit. So we had a lot of canned fruit. And I always enjoyed Sunday dinner because our big staple for dessert Sunday dinner was strawberry jello with natural whipped cream on it, and big chunk of chocolate cake with nice white frosting on it. And that was always solid. It was enjoyable. The cream, I got to go out and skim off the cans. All the milk would be kept. Each day as we milked the cows, we would put it in 10-gallon cans and put it in the big metal water trunk we had that was about that high. And the water was cold. It would keep a day or two that way in that cold water. The windmill was running continuous, pumping water into the tank, and of course the cows drank water out of it, so the horses didn't want the milk in it. And so mother would tell me to run out and get her a quart of cream off the top of the can so you could, it was thick enough on top of it. You could take one cup of those, quart bottle or something, go out and take the lid off and skim that. Put it in the bottle and take it in the house, and then of course she would whip it up with an egg beater and put a little sugar with it, sometimes a little lemon for lemon flavor, and that would go on top of the Jello or pudding or whatever else we had. But I always enjoyed that strawberry Jello with whipped cream on it and a big piece of chocolate cake. And it was, like I said, we ate very simple, but we had lots of tea. And the boys and the girls all would have to catch the bus in the morning to go to school when school was on. And of course, it was a big, busy lunchtime. They had to make sandwiches of whatever we had that would work for them. And they all graduated from all high school. That particular time, but I was 5 years younger, so I was still learning lots of other things about what was going on. So it's It's asthma time of the year, but I don't have, it isn't asthma. I think I got some bronchitis. Went to the doctor yesterday, he gave me some pills that really helped, but and father was in the bishopric, and he started out as a second counselor, and when he passed away, he was conducting me on one leg because the other one had been cut off at the knee, and all the time that Dad was in the bishopric, Mother was a chorister. She was a pretty good musician, and she played the organ or the piano and then made music during all the church activities. And the ride to and from church that particular time wasn't that much fun. The little cars always had a stack in it. Of course, my two older sisters was the one who was asked to take care of Dale. Well, I can remember separated still on the tree trying to find it. The boys got involved in doing the sacrament thing, and I can remember a time when the brother was sat at the sacrament table and went to sleep, and we got up and sung the closing song, and he slept through it, and everybody in the ward gave him a bad time for that. He was really embarrassed, and he and Vance were always real competitive with each other. They got out on the lawn one day before the bus came to make them up and got in a fight in the morning, and they got serious about it. And I mean, real serious. They wouldn't give up, so Dad went out and bell, and I made the fight. Wanted to get on top and cut it ease off a little bit, and Dad said, "You need to off with you." And Burley, I don't want to. Dad said, "You lost anything off it." And the bus came, and Dad sent them on down the road. Sent the bus on, school bus on down the road. And he took them in the house when they got tired and said, "Ours, they could only lift their arms, made them all clean up, and fix their faces up, and then they go to school." But that was the last time that Vance and Burley ever got into a serious scrap that I ever knew of. And this was prior to my school time, so all these things I got in on. I remember the milkman coming. They get the milk out of the watering trough, and at that particular time we could buy butter from him. Telephone, dear. And we could buy butter from him, and Mother sold me, I remember the first pair of shorts ever on my life, and she made it out of material, what, I can't remember the name of that material. Anyway, it had green and red and blue stripes in it, real soft. And that's all I had on that morning, and milkman came. And it was this time of year, and he handed me down a couple of pounds of butter, and just wrapped in that thin skin paper. And I remember I tried to hold on to them, they were soft, because he didn't have any way to keep them cool. And I got that butter, broke out on a piece of paper and got all of them down there. Homemade sharks. Sure unhappy. And Lance and Burley and Jack, of course, we had to have new posts all the time. I'm talking about the posts for the fences. And we were real close to the cedars. And the cedar posts was a big thing at that particular time. So Dad would send them up to cut cedar posts. And what to do, you'd find a cedar that doesn't have any limbs on it, was about the right size. And you cut it down, and you'd trim all the limbs off right down against the post and throw it on the wagon and bring the wagon along home. One of those trips when they were up there, they saw an eagle, saw the eagle nest, and knew there was little to do. So they went and swiped one of the eagles out of the nest prior to coming back with a load of wood. And then when they got home, they built a little pen about 4 by 6 and about 4 feet high out of chicken wire and some little pine poles that they'd cut to make their framework. And I got Mother would always make an extra egg or 2 in the morning and, you know, fried potatoes or a little extra meat or whatever. And I got to go out and feed the eagle. It was outside our fenced in the yard around the house and Pat and I watched that thing, you know, grow up. It got real quite fierce, and boy, he'd throw something there and then he'd just grab it with his claw, not picking at it. And one day, the boys decided that it was big enough that they could turn it loose and it would probably fly away on its own. Well, they let it out this one day, and by evening it was back, and this happened 2 or 3 days in a row. On about the 3rd day, it didn't come back, so that was the last of the those experiences. They were great. Burley Jacks were great to fly kites. They really liked to fly kites, and at that time was a big deal. So they took Mother's churn that she churned butter in. She let them use it. They wrapped a whole bunch of stringers on the paddle inside. And of course the string came out the top, and they built a good sized kite as long. You know, we built them out of at that particular time store paper, if you could get it. They wrapped things in the store. And then they would use Montgomery Wardresser's catalog piece of paper with a tail. They would take them and put a tail on them about 3 or 4 feet long and put it with kind of whole plate. And they, one afternoon, they got around on the north side of the house with south wind coming. And that thing went way off down in the pasture we had down there. Wind was blowing just right and blowing it. All of it having a good time, letting out the string out on the churn, and all of a sudden the wind died. And the kite just took a big nosedive and all of that. Well, it just so happened that where it went was in our calf pasture. Calves from Holstein cows. And they broke and run because they knew what those calves would do. By the time they'd got down to where the kite was, the calves already made hoof prints in it and flicked it. One thing that doesn't spoil the kite for them. I can remember how upset they were. That was the end of it. That was the end of the kite flying, and they used Mother's churn. spring. They take a stick out of that roll up, and boy, that old churn was a great deal. And they could wind that string on that old churn paddle inside, and the top climb slope like that. And they had it way, way down there. That was a long way. And they knew they were in trouble when it went down. And they knew what the calves did. The calves were total. But that stopped that long distance sky flying real quick. They were so upset because of course I was a kid, but that's the furthest I'd ever seen him. He was kind of away from the house. I don't know where they got all the strength. It was a long ways. And Jack and I were closer probably than the other two. So I'm thinking he was a little younger than he was. He was 5 years older than I was. But I was riding the horse during all this period of time, son. I'm talking about from the time I was 4 till I was about 6. And he picked me up one day. He offered me a home and took me on the horse behind him and he slept. Because he's home and I fell and broke my arm. And I really broke his heart, so he got me and broke my arm. I can't remember that broken arm. I really can't. I remember broken arm. I can remember riding the old horse out in the field. I could guide the horse and ride him, but before I was 6 years old, 4 or 5 and 6 long ago. And he shied with me at times. You know, he kind of horse and beside him, he shied around. He dodged in the road to dodge away from it. And you know, a couple of times. He dodged and I wasn't ready and I ended up on the ground. Was trying men off the old ground. I got another one that's shorter, but each year they go to the mountains and they lost some money. Cut cedar and pine or whatever they can get. They split into chunks like this, sawed into chunks like this, big saw time fall. When they sawed the wood and then one of the boys split it, and of course I got to carry a lot of wood. I hate trying to carry acid out. I'm carrying our load of wood. There would have been 4 or 5 sticks of wood, but I had to keep it in the wintertime off the wood boxes for the kitchen and one in the front room. And I had to take the ashes out and carry them out. We had to pile out back someplace where we take the ashes out of the stove when we finish. I remember on that. Hey, that long last morning we stand up, backed up to the stove and warmed the body after sleeping upstairs all night. And then we had upstairs in the house and we'd all go over with either a flat iron wrapped in no Montgomery water sewers, no catalog paper, so it wouldn't burn us too bad. He had a hot water bottle in the wintertime to keep warm. We slept on straw mattresses, which mistakes, you know. Get the cleanest straw we can get and put in the framework of the mattress and put on the bed. So that's what we slept on at that particular time, was straw mattresses. You get hunkered down that and get a nice warm in one move. Dad was a great one to get everybody to rise early. He had the cast of alcohol. He'd get everybody up at 5:30 and go do the chores and go back in. By then, Mother had breakfast or whatever we were going to have. And we had breakfast and then the rest of the day started. But he always saw that we had plenty to do. Had sheep to lamb out in the winter time and was always cow food. Of course, then you had to feed the horses when they worked, when they didn't, you still had to feed them. And so the boys were kept busy between that and school. And I got to do a lot of things to help Mother around. I remember one time we were out on the front lawn in the summertime for some reason. I think it was just prior to the 4th of July. And we had some of the neighbors, or two neighborhood kids come down 2 or 3 miles away horseback, and we got racing, foot racing out on the lawn. And I just wouldn't, at that particular time, I think challenged Jack to race me. My brother, so they made a big deal out of it. We ran, of course, he beat me by a step. And growing up around my big brothers, I started walking around and kicking the grass, saying, bitchy, bitchy, bitchy. Well, that wasn't exactly the way I heard it. I heard it with the other part on it. Yes, mother heard me. She took me in the house and poured black pepper on my tongue and threatened me with losing my life if I took a drink of water. And I remember I went out and stood on the porch and was facing south. We had the west wind. And I took my head out around the corner. And I had my tongue out that black pepper on it to get a little cool until she finally told me that's enough water. I can't remember which it was. But I was glad to get it, and I was real careful about saying any more parts of swear words. I didn't say anybody around. But I should, I was a little kid, I thought I could have to run Jack, And he just barely beat me. And boy, I just barely beat you. And I was real glad because he beat me. And I can remember that plain as day. We all sat in the same room upstairs. Burley and Jack sat together, Vance and I sat together. And there was, of course, a lot of snoring going on at night. But I didn't have any, at that particular time, I didn't have any trouble sleeping there. And I had to come to the bottom of the stairs. And the house is still in Malta.
I saw it, yeah, I saw it there.
The house is still in Malta, the upstairs is still there. The 3 bedrooms upstairs are still in it. And he'd come to the bottom of the stairs and say, come on, boys, rattle your chains, let's go get the cow milk. And of course, everybody would roll out. And if it was dance night for these guys, we had dances at the church quite often. And the morning after dance, they'd say, come on. And it's all that, let's get up and pay the fiddler now. Yeah, I gotta get up and pay the fiddler. And then they'll tell them that, and they'll growl, and they'll send me up and go do the chores. Prior to my 6th year. And about this time, the drought and the depression were both on in the area, and we were struggling to raise enough feed to take care of our milk cows and the sheep and the horses and everything else. And it was a big piece of land in Malta, 650 acres. It was up for lease. We leased the German fellow by the name of Deerdorf owned it. And so Dad went in, sat down, and made a deal with him, and sometime during that 6-year summer, we moved in there and took that place over. And so that took the bus rides. I never did have to ride school bus because we started in the 1st grade that year. And the boys at that time were talking about college. And Gladys were headed for Albion Normal Day School to learn how to become school teachers. And the Albion School is still up there, and they're trying to figure out something to do with it now, the stadium. And the only thing I can remember that happened there for a while was that everybody's work increased. I was old enough to turn the handle on the separator. I don't suppose you ever heard of a separator to run well, was it? You take the whole milk right fresh from a cow and put it through this machine and twist the handle, and it's separating the cream from the milk. So what you end up with was a lot of blue milk and straight cream in good amounts. And we had, at that time, there was no creamery involved. All the cream they would take care of. But that blue milk had to be fed to pigs. And of course I got involved in that and still was up the wood carrying and ashes and all that kind of stuff. My jobs had been assigned. We had more chicken than the bigger chicken coop, and I had to clean it and, you know, all those kind of things. But the woods were working hard. They were learning how to irrigate big acres, and we had to have a haying crew, 12 or 15 people, because it was 450 acres of hay to put up every year. And the pattern went on, accepting with larger scale. And I got heavily involved in school. I can remember one day Burley this and Dad sold that and Jack told that and I told Dad mother-in-law when I was still just 6 or 7 passed. And I said, I wish I could have something of my own. I sure like to have something of my own. Everybody else got something. Dad said, well, what would you like? I said, I'd like to talk. Oh, yeah. No, we got one dog around here, that's enough. So I forgot about it, and we keep coaching about it. And one day, they came driving back from Burley and getting groceries. And Mom stepped out of the car and had his puppy on it. First time telling the story. I was so thrilled to have something of my own. George, he and I just took each other like a duck in the water, you know. And as we went out, I don't name that. I'm going to call him Duke. So Duke, D-U-K, he's stuck with him. And he and I became real close. A kid and a dog, and he'd help me put the chicken in, I'd give it an old hen, and didn't want to go in very bad at night, and I'd say, get it, drinking boy. He'd take after it, he'd fly in the chicken door to get in to get away from me. And as he grew, I got taken in awful tough. I thought, boy, that's a big tough dog. We had a neighborhood dog from New York one day. I sick Duke on him. He gave Duke a real bad whip. I decided he wasn't a fighter. But he and I sat on the back porch and shared a lot of peanut butter sandwiches, peanut butter and honey sandwiches, and peanut butter and jam sandwiches, and oatmeal cookies and good cold milk. I'd let him lap milk out of my glass, and when I ever seen me, she would put the sweat in me. But whenever I went to get the cows, and I was riding along for a mile or two at a time, and he would follow me up to get the cows. We had the cow pasture about 2 miles from the barn, and I had to go drive the cows, turn down the road in the barn, and it was my task. And the cows at the barn, and 5:30 to milk every night regardless. Somewhere on it. So I take Duke with me, and he got awfully interested in ground squirrels. And there was a lot of ground squirrels in the cow pasture. And the temptation was too great for him, and he went to little old squirrel, babies, young squirrels don't stand up, look at you, you know, 3 feet, but every so often he had to attempt to try to eat one. And I couldn't coax him away from it. He just go like an idiot. And for the other one, as I could see it, but if they go out there, the things are still waiting in here. And I'd leave the house, I'd be down the corner with the cows, and then the cow ready to go. Well, about dark, he'd come in all dirty and sore-footed. I was disappointed he hadn't got a squirrel. But he waited at the front gate for me when I went to school. He never tried to lay the yard. He'd follow me down the front gate to lay down and watch me leave. But I can tell you, when I came home from school, that's right where he was. He could tell 9 years between Jack and I. And so I can't ever remember what happened. And think about it, I just can't remember whatever happened to him. He and I were great friends for 4 or 5 years till I think I outgrew him. And then I got involved in livestock business, wanted to have a show calf and all that sort of thing. And you saw the picture this morning, I think. They had this Salt Lake livestock show in Salt Lake at the railroad yards down there. And, my dad went with me and bought a calf and won the cattle in there in the area. And we took it home and I took care of it. Got enough money to go to the Salt Lake show. And at that time we had to put in a little trailer and all down there and back. And so I was lifting the bedroll, that calf, a little money, got very close to town. And I wanted a company, so I took my cousin with me. His name was Thomas Robert, and we called him T.R. And it was June conference time, October conference time, when this show was on, and Jack was going with his to-be wife, and Dad didn't have very much cash the day that I left, and he had, I can't remember how much he had me, but it wasn't very much. And we knew we were going to have to eat 3 meals a day there at the stockyards. And sure enough, Jack came, but he didn't leave me any money. And so my cousin and I, T.R. and I, we had the hamburgers, and orange pop for breakfast, and the hamburgers, orange pop for dinner, and the hamburgers, orange pop for supper. And my dad had told me that Jack was going to make some money. And Jack had something with him, I was sure he was worried about spending money on Selma.
Uh-oh.
And so I didn't get any more money. And we made it through on hamburgers from orange pop 3 times a day. But that was probably one of the times in my life, one of the longest 3 or 4 days I ever spent away from home. Was because that children, you had to count every dime you spent. You couldn't even go buy it. You could want candy or ice cream over out that railroad yard. I didn't dare spend any, you know, and my cousin knew the situation. And we just did up the bedroll there, and slept in the stockyards at night, and used what toiletries there was there, restroom, and to get along with them, and let them share the money time. I've never truly forgive him for that. I wouldn't make any difference if I hadn't known that Dad had sent money. Dad said, I'll send some money down with Jack, and when Jack didn't offer any money, I was like, well, I don't know. Anyway, it was a tough deal. And at that time, I was beginning to get athletics in mind and all that sort of thing. And my tasks became greater. The things that I could do, we had still had a bunch of milk cows, and I got so I could milk almost as many milk cows at the time. You know, my brothers would milk 3 or 4 milk cows, I could milk a couple.
Yeah. I wanted you to mention, too, now that we're talking about milking cows, tell me about your hands and your dad's hands right now, again, because I didn't get to tape that part.
Okay. As I was growing up, I remember seeing how large my dad's hands were, how thick the fingers were, and how big his hand was, and how thick his fingernails was. And he never, I never seen my dad with a pair of gloves on. And everything he did where he had shovels and drove the horses. Then we had a tractor to drive. And that was about the last year that I spent with my dad when he and I really worked together. We had a bunch of pigs and potatoes with sheep, and he built a deal to boil potatoes and feed them to pigs because that would really fatten them. And I remember we had to carry a lot of water for those. He took 50-gallon barrels and cut the top side of them, and then we filled that full of water and dumped the rest in potatoes, and then we used the old tires or anything else we could get to put underneath them to make the water boil, and they boil until they were soft. But I can remember, seeing him carry water in 5-gallon buckets, and his hands, on the machinery work on his hands, and they were so big, and his fingernails were so thick that I've seen him loosen the screw until you could turn some of your fingers, and he'd just stick his thumbnail in that deal and turn it like that. And of course, that was one of the things that my brother Deb didn't get to see him more about my dad. That's how tough he was. He lost his leg, with a blood clot, and he used to conduct church meetings as bishop on one leg with crutches. And because of his handicap, they made him water master. We had the farm right there in south and west of Omaha. And but they made him water master on the old raft river. And that meant that we had to go each day to everybody's head gate and check the water. Well, he didn't drive with one foot. He couldn't do it very well, and so he taught me to drive before he was 14, 15-year-old. I drove the car during the summer for my dad to go check the water. And I got so all I had to do, he told me how to measure. And I could drive to the head gate and get out with the tape and measure the water and tell him how much it was, and he'd tell me whether to set it down a little bit or raise a little bit so that everybody was getting the amount they were supposed to get. But he had the toughest hands I ever saw. His fingernails were thick, but he didn't count me. He had to go along talking like he kept sharp, and it would come off a little chunk when he cut it, didn't go like mine. I got the big hands he had, but my fingernails never got thick like that. And that had to be because he worked with his hands there.
Now, what did your dad die of?
Heart attack.
Oh, he had a heart attack.
Died of a heart attack. Vance had come home for a visit from Puyallup, Washington, where he was carried. And Mother and Dad took him back to Twin Falls to put him on a train and send him back up there. And when they got back to Burley, Dad said, "I'm not feeling good, let's go and see Ace." That would be Mother's younger brother, who owned a motel right there in Burley, the Parish Motel is still there, still named Parish Motel. And he went and he said, "Ace," he said, "I don't feel good." He said, "What's a chance to lay out on your bed?" And Ace said, "Yeah, go ahead, man. Take a rest if you need one." And he went in and lay down on that bed, and 20 minutes later he was gone. He's had a complete heart attack right there. And we had relatives who owned the funeral home there.
Now, how old would he have been when he passed away then?
64.
Who was 64?
And he had inflammatory rheumatism. He had inflammatory rheumatism when he was 22 years old, and spent part of a winter in Soda Springs supposedly getting rid of it, but it left him with a bad leak in his heart one side. And he doctored for that the rest of his life. They had a product called Digitalis, and they was two things that he always kept around. One of them was Digitalis and one of them was whiskey. And a tablespoon full of whiskey or a teaspoonful of Digitalis would make his heart even out. But it would really run rough, miss a lot. And he finally had the blood clot and went around and settled in his knee at about 62 and a half years old. And amputated his leg at the knee and pulled the kneecap down on the ends of the knee so that he would have something for a cushion for a wooden leg. We went to Salt Lake and he was measured for the wooden leg. And it was ordered and everything, and just prior to him having the opportunity to wear the wooden leg, he passed away with this heart attack. Right there in Burley. The 29th of April, the year I was 15, and 4 or 5 days later, we buried on my 15th birthday.
Hmm. Now, what was your mother's health as you remember, did she have good health?
Mother always had an ulcer. And I've seen her go on a milk toast diet for 3 weeks. She would toast bread and warm up milk and put warm milk on it, on her plate, and poached eggs, and she would eat that for 2 or 3 weeks at a time to heal the ulcer. And she also had sinus real bad, just really terrible. It got so bad that, she just couldn't live with it. So at that time they operated. I don't know of anybody that's had that sinus operation at all anymore around here. They have other ways of curing that, but at that time they didn't. And she had a hole right there, a big one on her northern eye. But even after the operation, she still suffered with sinus problems. And she got along real good, but the ulcer was the thing.
Yeah.
She'd have once that ulcer, and when she'd, like I say, she'd go on a milk toast diet and the first doctor told her that you need to put something in your stomach where that will have a chance to heal over it. The scab will come over it and then it'll heal. And she'd go on a milk toast diet, and put toast bread a little bit lightly, one of them pour hot milk on it and toast egg, and she would eat that for 8 weeks at a time.
Now, you said that your dad, tell me how tall he was and...
His dad was about 5'9", and that was stretching a little bit. And he normally weighed about 155 or 160 pounds. And in the wintertime, when things slowed down a little bit, he wasn't working so hard, he'd get to be 165 or 168. But he was built heavy through the upper part of his body, his shoulders, and he had large arms for a little guy. And his wrists were thick like mine, or he had the bulging muscles here when he taken his arm like that, and just to surprise you. A little guy, but he had broad shoulders for a small man. Thick chest and small shoulders, wide shoulders.
Did you know him to have a head of hair ever?
No, I never saw my dad with that hair, and he used to take me to the barber shop with me, and I'd get so embarrassed I couldn't hardly stand it. First thing he'd do was go in and got the kid in the barber about what he's going to charge him for do his haircut, and the barber tell him, and he'd say, well, now, you're only going to have to cut a half head of hair. So I said, I think you ought to do it for half price. And they always made a joke out of it, and had a lot of fun, and I'd be embarrassed.
Tell me about your dad's personality. Tell me about some of...
It's fun.
Was it fun? Was he a tease?
Pardon?
Was he a tease? Did he tease people?
Yeah, that was fun. And he had a good sense of humor. He'd laugh, but he also could get upset. I saw him upset at my mother every time we went to go any place, because she was never on time. Now, I've been have my life way to that woman. If I get ready to go someplace, I want to go. Mother was always late.
Now, tell me how much your mom weighed and how tall she was.
Mother was 5'9". She and Dad were just almost identical at the same height. She always wore a heel. Not like that on her shoes. She wore those little heavy black work shoes. But had about that much of a heel put on it, and it was size 11 or 12. And most of the time, she weighed 205 pounds. She wasn't that quite close, but that 205 pounds was kind of her weight.
Now, what was her personality like?
Mother was a lot of fun. She was also serious about things, but she was a lot of fun. But she was a good athlete when she was young. She used to win all races up to Elba and all wherever she went. They put her in foot race and she could win it.
So both of your folks were athletic.
Yeah, and I think that's where, Vance was fast and Burley and Jack both had a lot of speed. And I did too, and we're all athletic. And I think that's where it came from. And they never particularly, when I was growing up or when the boys were growing up, I never did see them pay a lot of attention or encourage the boys to do it. But Vance was a good boxer. In fact, he won the state championship in college in state Idaho as a boxer. And Jack wrestled. And Jack was a good wrestler, and he went his weight class in the state Idaho as a wrestler. Now, Burl Ryan, he didn't high jump or pole vault or anything, but for 220 yards, wasn't many people in the state could not run him. He was tall and lean, and Vance said, boy, it's fun to watch him
How tall do you think Burl was?
at that particular time.
Just at his full height, how tall do you think Burl was as an adult? Do you
He
know?
was 6'2".
He was 6'2"?
Yeah, 6'2".
But he was thin all his life.
You know, I weighed 185 pounds. The best part of his life when he was in good shape. Burl was 6'2" and weighed 185.
I see, yeah.
And he never did lose much of his hair. Jack, he went bald-headed real young and had beautiful heavy curly hair, and Vance had a nice looking head of hair, and they both went bald early.
See, I don't remember my dad with hair at all, so I don't know when he went bald.
Well, he lost his hair early. He and Jack both. I never did think Jack would ever, of course, I didn't know, I was just a kid. I thought, well, his hair like that, well, when his fell out, it just fell out.
Is that right?
Yeah. He just had, just like you got right now. His dad said, well, Burl maintained some head hair. I think he was more than mine. I don't remember Burl even getting thin in the front. Can you remember? Yeah,
So Burl,
yeah, he maintained good full head hair all the time.
now, do you have much of a memory of Grandma and Grandpa Parrish, or your Grandma and Grandpa Parrish and your Grandma and Grandpa Smith? Did you live with them?
I knew Grandpa Parrish real well.
So that would be your
Grandpa
mom's
Smith
dad.
real well.
Your mom's dad you knew
Yeah,
real
I
well.
knew him real well.
And he lived with you for a
He lived
time.
with us for several years before he moved to Burley.
Oh, that's right.
He's the one that taught me to play cat and mouse. And you probably never heard of the game. The kids don't play it anymore. But he would take a willow about that big around and about that long, and he would take and trim from the middle. He would trim both ends down to a point. And then he'd cut another piece of willow about that long and about that big around. And he'd set that on the floor, and of course he hit either one of the lean ends, and it would jump, and they call it cat and mouse. And I've been going to do that for these grandkids of mine. I've never done it. I should do it, but it was fun to do it. It's fun to do it. He got so he could put it in a circle, and on that circle over there, he hit that thing and just put the air flop over and right in the circle.
And that's Grandpa Parrish.
Grandpa
Now,
Parrish.
what was his first name?
Robert.
Okay, Robert. Now, he's not the ones who came across the plains. Was it his dad?
No, his dad.
His dad that came across. Okay, all right. So he was born here. He was probably born.
His dad.
Okay.
They tell a story, Susan, or Grandma tells a story. My mother tells a story about Grandpa Parrish when he decided to throw his tobacco away. They had an alfalfa field right close to the house, and they both go near them. And he made up his mind to do it. He just went out and stood by the gate and threw down as far out in that alfalfa patch as he could throw it. And then just went on about his business. About the third day, he got so sick and miserable and laid around on the couch for a week. Getting over that. They just did it cold turkey.
Wow.
And said he really got sick. But he never did give up one cup of coffee a day for breakfast. Grandma Smith lived within 75 feet of us there in Malta for
Now
years.
okay, so Grandma Smith would be
Dad's mother.
Dad's mother, lived there.
Yeah.
And what was her, do you know her first name? I can look it up, but she lived close in Malta.
Yeah, she lives in 50 or 75 feet of us. In fact, the house that was there is still there next to one that we moved into Malta, right next to her.
Right, okay.
Or was the fence between us.
Right.
And she weighed about 90 pounds in a pocket full of rocks, soaking wet.
Oh, tiny thing.
She was little.
Tiny thing.
And her brother was little that came across the plains. Dad came from a small family. And none of his brothers were big. About like him. In fact, he probably had more shoulders and arms than any of the other three brothers. Grandma Smith was Grandma Smith was I gotta be careful how I say this. She believed the church. And she'd fight you to a standstill over it. But she had to have her tea 3 times a day.
Yeah.
She'd fight anybody to a standstill that ever went against the church. And she was a mean, snappy, tough little rascal boy that you ever saw. It'd take her about 3 seconds to tell you. I remember she had a hook nose and kind of a receding chin, the boy. She had that hook nose, and she could get real nasty real quick and tell you how all of us. But she would go get the church boy, and she'd whip you.
Who would be the first person, I should have asked you this before, do you know who the first convert was to the church on either Parrish or Smith side? Do you know who the first convert would have been on either side?
No, I really don't know, and I'd have to go way back to find out.
So it'd be way back in England.
Yeah, it happened like I say, the Parrishes lived about 80 or 90 miles north of London.
Right.
Over kind of towards the west coast.
Yeah.
And the Smiths lived south, but kind of over pretty close to the west coast.
Yeah.
In an area called
That's okay. So they, well, I'll have to look that up. So I'd be interested in knowing.
It was a settlement of a group of people, that group of people.
Now, you said that my grandpa, your dad, was in the bishopric. Was he also a bishop?
Yeah.
In Elba or in Malta?
Malta.
In Malta. He served as a bishop in Malta.
Yeah. He started off as a second counselor in the bishop, and the bishop died, and he was moved up to a second counselor, and they put in another bishop. And when the bishop moved out of town, there was the bishop. He was moved right into the bishopric and was, I can't even remember him when he wasn't in the bishopric.
Okay.
He was a bishop when I was born, in the bishopric when I was born.
How long do you think he served as the
21
bishop?
Years.
How many years?
He served the bishopric for 21 years.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Second, first, and bishop. Yeah, he'd been in the bishopric about 7 years when he passed away.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and I remember him seeing him get up on his crutches and conduct meeting after he got so he could get around on that leg, on one leg.
And you mentioned that Flossie, your mother, usually served in music because she was very musical.
She was a chorister.
She was the chorister and did that.
Yeah, she choristered all the while Dad was in Bismarck. And sometime after, but she did other musical too. She played a lot of. She would play if a chorister wasn't there or something special, she'd play the piano for it.
Now, I remember when we visited in Grandma's house there in Malta that we'd go up in the upstairs. There were musical instruments up there. I remember a trombone and some other things. Did you boys play instruments?
No, I did.
Oh, you did?
I played the trombone.
That's up there in that attic. I mean, that bedroom. We'd love to go up there and play. That was really fun.
Yeah, that was so. But we still may have that around here someplace.
Maybe.
For a long time.
Yeah.
On a shelf, but I played the trombone. Yeah, I was 3 years old in high school. I played the trombone.
That's great. Let's see if
Came to Elba and built a home and started a farm. They had a yard fence like everybody else was, a couple of poles and a post, a couple of poles and posts on the yard. And what they had for a gate was 2 poles that could just lay down and go in and out. And the Indians were still there, and still harassed the whites. And one day, they came, about 6 young bucks come up to the yard and threw the gates down without getting the poles out, without getting off the horse, and hoorah'd the house, and one thing and another, and Grandfather stepped out on the porch. And they made a fuss one thing and another, and turned around and started to leave, and he told them, put the poles back up. They didn't pay attention, he just reached up the door like that, and pulled that big old blasting out. And one of them come back and put the poles up. Wow. That's when Mother was a girl. And another time, they had a garden, and the farm up there, I can show you where it was, a garden just down below the house towards the creek in Elma. And Grandmother Smith and her parish had just made two pats of butter, like how meat dishes were shaped. She had 2 of those sitting on the kitchen table. People out, they'd always make marks through them like this, and put all these lines on them or something. And she'd left Mother at the house. And it was garden time. And a couple of squaws with kids came to the front of the house and knocked on the door. And it scared the life out of Mother, because she was just a kid. So she just jumped out the back window, on the side of the garden, and just watched and peeked through the window, see that the old squaws come in with their people and had a kid, and looked around, saw that Mother was there, oh, and they rubbed their hands on it like this, and put on her black hair. Then they go over and stand in front of the looking glass and see how shiny and pretty it looked with that butter on her hair. And it scared Mom so bad she broke and run down the garden. And by the time Grandpa got back up the house, the squaws had left. But they took that butter and rubbed on her hair, make it nice and shiny and pretty. Rubbed their hand across the top of that like that, did you know?
So there were Indians in that Malta area when they came? Oh, in Elba, that's right. The parishes were in Elba. But there were Indians there when they first came.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really, that would give you an impression.
In fact, Grandfather's first farm.
Grandfather Parish's.
Yeah, in Elba. Was down pretty close to that Connor Creek store, just above it.
Right.
And it was up that sloping canyon there, where the Army finally surrounded the Indians and put them on the reserve. Connor Creek now, General Connor, General Connor was the one in charge of that group of soldiers at that particular time. And he was the one that went up to clean them up and get them back on the reserve. And they built to them to catch them. And they run them up that canyon, it's called Connor Creek Canyon. From the little story, you look up that way and you see that mountain slopes like this. They got them out of, and the soldiers went up both sides. And that's where they surrounded the Indians. And later on, grandfather sold or traded that place for that piece of property just above the store, where the store used to be, in Elmo, where the old home is still standing. I took Arlene up there when she was here 3 weeks ago, or a month ago.
I just have a few minutes left here. What I want you to do is just tell me the names of all your, because see, I didn't know Gladys or Ines. Now, Ines is the oldest.
Inez was the oldest. Her name was I-N-E-Z, Inez, as the way the mother wanted us to pronounce it. I call her Inez all my life. Gladys was G-L-A-D-Y-S, and that's why the boys had so much fun with her. Call her Mama Little Happy Bot.
And then next came Vance and Burl.
And Vance and Burl.
And now I heard, is this true? They were both pretty good-sized babies for being twins. Do you remember?
10, 12 pounds.
Each.
No, Vance weighed 10, Burl 12.
Don't you think that's incredible?
Well,
where were these kids?
Jack weighed 14 pounds.
Are you serious?
But remember that my mother was a big woman.
She was. Now, do you know how much you weighed when you were born?
Yeah, about 8.
Oh, so you were small. And where were they all born? Were they born? Was there a hospital? There wasn't a hospital.
No hospital. No.
Where were they born?
I was born in Malta, in our home. The boys and the girls, I think, were all born in Elba, and most of them by a midwife.
So the midwife would come to your home.
Mm-hmm.
So you're born at
The
home.
midwife, there was a midwife in Elba, and mother knew her, and I can't remember her name, but that's what she did.
She came.
She just took the place.
So your mother did fine in childbirth, even with those big babies. She did okay.
Yeah.
That's really something.
And the twins weighed, Vance weighed 10, Burl 12, and Jack weighed 14. And the girls weren't that big, either one of them. I missed
Were the girls a lot older than the boys? Or were they all kind of, I mean...
No, the girls were 3 or 4 years older than Vance and Burl.
Okay, so they're a little older. But not
Vance
long.
was firstborn, so when it comes to decisions about that, he was always the one that got to work. He was about 20 minutes older than Burl.
Oh, was that right? How about that? Well, we're about out of tape here. Is there any other things that you can think that we should talk about this morning?
We had, let's see, wait a minute. See, everybody was gone but me now. Yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
When we were on the Deerdorf place, we had lots of hay and lots of grain. And we knew of a fellow who had a combine. Who would cut grain off the stuff, separate it, and add sacks that just grain to come out, and he sewed sacks full of grain and dumped them in the field, and then he'd come out and pick them up in a wagon or pickup or truck, whatever they had. And Dad went to this fellow whose name was Darrington in Elba, and bought the combine, and it was pulled by horses. And we pulled it out into Malta, and they had somebody who knew how to take care of it, fix the combine, redo it, fix it, get ready to cut grain, and then we broke It'd take 6 head of horses to pull it. We put the horses, we had enough horses to put that many together, and enough harnesses, and hooked it up so that 6 head of horses could pull it. And that was Vance and Jack's job. It was to run that. And that was going to be, this was college money. So they didn't only harvest our grain in Malta, but they harvested grain for everybody else in the area that wanted grain harvested, had a patch of grain to harvest. Jack was the driver. Jack drove the horses and took care of that part of it. And Vance was the sower, the sack sower. And of course, off the machine on the back where you sowed the sacks, they had a little deal there that hold about 5 sacks. And when you got to 5 sacks, all you did hit the trip and the trip, and the sacks hit the ground. And when they went to whoever owned them, went come and picked it up at the wagon, or like I say, a truck or pickup. And that's when they handled grain. At that particular time, it would be hauled in here to Burley to either one of the 2 or 3 towns we had here, and sold. But whatever they made, whatever Vance and Burl made, Vance and Jack made off from the harvesting of the grain, that was college money. And the year that they got ready to go to college, the 3 of them went together. Dad went and bought a little 4-wheeled wagon, rubber-tired wagon, and made some adjustments to it, widened it a little bit, lengthened it, and did some work on it, and built a house, a small house, apartment house at the time, right on top of the wagon. It had 3 bunks in it, and a kitchen stove, and a bathroom, and cupboards, and a place for a table, and a place to store clothes. And when they went to college, over to Pocatello the first year, they was pulled over with a car,